Hey guys, tonight we are going to be talking about a time when the old saying sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me was demonstrably untrue. We're going to journey back to a world where a sharp tongue was considered a public nuisance, where malicious gossip was a punishable crime, and where the punishment for what the authorities deemed unruly women was a terrifying and bizarre iron mask. With our modern love of internet comment sections and spicy group chats, I think it's fair to say that most of us would be in serious trouble. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. I'd also love to know where you're tuning in from tonight, and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see this community assembling from every corner of the globe. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The afternoon sun is warm on your back as you stand by the village well, your wooden bucket resting at your feet. The well is the heart of your community, its social center. It is a place of labor, of the rhythmic creak of the rope, and the strain in your shoulders as you haul up bucket after bucket of cold, clear water for your household. But it is also the village's primary source of news, a place where information is exchanged as freely as water is drawn. You are here with your neighbor, Agnes, waiting your turn. The air is filled with the low hum of conversation as other women share stories, complain about their husbands, and pass along the vital information that holds your small, interconnected world together. The conversation, as it always does, eventually turns to gossip. Agnes leans in closer, her eyes alight with a delicious conspiracy. "Have you seen the new ribbon on the baker's wife's Sunday dress?" she whispers. "Cost a pretty penny, I'm sure. Strange, for a woman whose bread is suddenly tasting more of sawdust than flour." A small, sharp thrill goes through you. This is a juicy morsel, a piece of information that has both social and economic weight. You feel the temptation to add your own contribution, to show that you too are observant, that you too are in the know. Her bread is not the only thing that has soured. You find yourself whispering back, your voice low. "I saw her husband, the baker, leaving the blacksmith's forge late last night, and the blacksmith's own wife was nowhere to be seen." The words are out before you have truly considered them. It is a small, careless insinuation, a tiny, poisoned arrow fired into the air for the sheer, satisfying sport of it. You have no proof. You only saw a man leaving a workshop. But in the telling, your observation has become a story, a narrative of potential infidelity that is now far more interesting than a simple statement of fact. Agnes's eyes go wide. She drinks it in, this new, more potent piece of gossip, and you can see her already mentally preparing to share it with the next person she speaks to. You feel a small, satisfying buzz. Social historians debate the primary function of village gossip. Was it a petty, malicious, and destructive force, a verbal poison used by neighbors to tear down reputations out of spite and boredom? Or was it an essential tool for social bonding and the self-regulation of community norms? A way for the village to enforce its unwritten rules of behavior and to punish those who cheated, lead, or stepped out of line in a world that had no formal media or police force to do so. Perhaps your comment about the baker was a way of subconsciously punishing his wife for the perceived sin of putting on airs with her new ribbon. You do not think of your words as a crime. It is just talk, idle chatter. But the law of your time makes a fine and dangerous distinction, one you are perhaps not paying enough attention to. Simple gossip, while a sin in the eyes of the church, is a matter for the priest and your own private confession. But slanderous story, whether true or not, that damages a person's trade or their good name, is a secular crime, a disruption of the public peace. And to be what they call a common scold, a woman known for her sharp tongue, her constant nagging, and her argumentative nature, is a specific and punishable offense in itself. Your turn at the well comes. You fill your bucket, the heavy, wet rope rough in your hands. You and Agnes part ways, your small, secret exchange already a part of the village's invisible web of information. You head home, feeling pleased with yourself, the purveyor of a new and interesting story. You think nothing more of it. But your words now have a life of their own. You have released them into the small, closed ecosystem of your village. You cannot see them, but they are traveling now, moving from ear to ear, from hut to hut. They are changing slightly with each retelling, the insinuation becoming a statement, the suspicion becoming a fact. And they are making their slow, inevitable journey back to the one person in the village who will not find the story so interesting, the one person whose reputation you have so carelessly, so idly, and so dangerously maligned. The seed of your future public humiliation has been sown. You arrive home, the heavy wooden bucket of water sloshing with every step, a familiar weight on your tired arm. You pour the water into the large ceramic jug that holds your family's supply and feel a quiet sense of satisfaction. The work is done, but more than that, you return from the well feeling informed, connected, and just a little bit more powerful. The small, juicy piece of gossip you shared with Agnes has left a pleasant, thrilling buzz in your mind. You settle into your evening chores, and you reflect on the power of that simple conversation. In your world, the spoken word is everything. You cannot read. Your husband cannot read. Almost no one you know can decipher the strange black squiggles that the priest uses in his holy books. There are no written notices nailed to the church door, no newspapers, no letters passed from hand to hand. Your entire understanding of the world, from the great deeds of the king to the price of wool at the next townhouse market, comes to you through the air, through the mouths of others. In such a world, a person's reputation is their most valuable possession, a fragile treasure built from a lifetime of words and deeds. And gossip is not the frivolous, idle chatter it might one day become. It is the primary engine of information. It is the news. It is the way you learn that old man Hemlock's cough has worsened, that the miller's daughter is to be wed, that a neighboring lord is raising men for a war in a distant land. To be part of the flow of gossip is to be part of the living, breathing consciousness of your village. To be excluded from it is to be an outcast, a person of no consequence. You think about how this information travels, like water from a spring. It has its sources, its central pools where people gather. The well is the great hub for the women. The blacksmith's forge, where men wait for tools to be mended, is another. But the true center of the village's information network, you know, is the alehouse. You think of the alewife, Marjorie, a woman who hears every story, every secret, every grievance, every boast. She sees who is drinking with whom, who is spending money they do not have, who is speaking words of anger against their neighbors. She is the unofficial chronicler of your village, the keeper of 1,000 unwritten histories. And this makes her, in her own quiet way, one of the most powerful people you know. Of course, you know that the stories change in the telling. The tale of the knight who fell from his horse last month has grown with each repetition, his fall becoming more dramatic, his injuries more severe. Sociolinguists and anthropologists of a future age will debate the reliability of a purely oral culture like your own. Was it an inherently chaotic system, a constant game of broken telephone where the truth was quickly and inevitably lost in a sea of rumor, exaggeration, and outright lies? Or did your culture have its own sophisticated built-in methods for ensuring the accuracy of important information, the use of rhyme and song, to make key facts more memorable, the trusted authority of the village elder, whose memory was a sacred library, the constant repetition and public checking of essential stories? You also know that gossip is more than just news. It is a weapon. It is the tool your community uses to regulate itself. You remember young Thomas, the one who was caught using a weighted thumb to cheat people at the market scales. The constable did nothing, but the story of his dishonesty spread like wildfire. The whispers followed him everywhere. Soon, no one would trade with him. No one would drink with him at the alehouse. The collective weight of the village's spoken disapproval punished him more effectively than a day in the stocks ever could have. The spoken word can be a shield, and it can be a sword. And today, you realize with a faint, unsettling thrill, you have wielded that sword. Your words about the baker's wife and the blacksmith were not just an observation. They were a judgment. In the informal, unacknowledged court of village opinion, you acted as a witness, a prosecutor, and a judge, all in the space of a single whispered sentence. You have subtly chipped away at her reputation, casting a shadow of doubt over her husband's fidelity, and by extension, her own household's honor. But the thought is fleeting. It was just talk, after all. Just words spoken to a neighbor on a sunny afternoon. You finish your chores, help prepare the evening meal of pottage, and eat with your family. The day ends, and as you lie down on your straw pallet, the satisfying little drama at the well has all but faded from your mind, eclipsed by the more immediate realities of your life. You fall asleep, utterly unaware that the story you started has continued its journey without you. It has traveled from Agnes to the miller's wife, from the miller's wife to the weaver, changing and growing along the way. The insinuation has become a certainty. The whisper has become a proclamation. And that story is now making its way, as all important stories do, directly to the ears of the baker and his wife. The careless words you spoke are coming home, and they are bringing a terrible trouble with them. The next day dawns, and the memory of your conversation at the well has faded completely, buried under the familiar weight of your daily chores. You are outside your hut, scattering some grain for your chickens, the morning air cool and pleasant. The world feels normal, predictable, and safe. It is a peace that is about to be violently shattered. You hear a commotion from down the lane, a raised voice, angry and insistent. You look up and see the baker's wife marching towards you, her face a mask of thunderous fury. Her husband, the baker, a large, flour-dusted man with powerful arms, walks grimly beside her. Your heart gives a sudden, sick lurch. You know, instantly, what this is about. She does not wait until she reaches you. She begins shouting from 20 paces away, ensuring that every neighbor within earshot becomes a part of the audience for your humiliation. "There she is," she cries, her voice sharp and piercing. "The woman with the venomous tongue. The viper who seeks to ruin the good name of my household." She stops directly in front of you, so close you can see the flour in her eyebrows. The baker stands behind her, a silent, intimidating mountain of muscle. "My neighbor Agnes tells me," she says, her voice dripping with sarcastic venom, "that you have been telling tales. That you saw my good husband sneaking from the smithy in the night. That you have been spreading poison about me and mine all over this village. The story has, as you knew it would, changed in the telling. Your vague insinuation has been transformed into a direct accusation of infidelity. The public nature of the confrontation is the point. In your small, close-knit world, your reputation is not a private matter. It is a public property, and she is accusing you of having vandalized hers. You are stunned into silence, your face burning with shame. You open your mouth to protest, to explain, but she cuts you off, leveling a powerful and specific accusation at you. "You are a common scold," she shouts. "A nag with a wagging tongue who finds more pleasure in slander than in honest work. A scold. The word is a weapon, and it is a word reserved almost exclusively for women. It is a label for a woman whose speech is deemed disruptive, improper, or too loud. A man who argues in the alehouse is seen as opinionated. A woman who argues with her neighbor is a scold. A man who shares a rumor is just passing on the news. A woman who does the same is a malicious gossip. The crime, you suddenly understand, is not just what you said. It is the fact that you, a woman, dared to speak in a way that threatened the public, patriarchal order of the village. Her shouting has had its intended effect. Your neighbors are now poking their heads out of their doorways. A few men on their way to the fields have stopped to watch the drama unfold. A small crowd has formed. They are your jury. You look for Agnes, the woman with whom you shared this crime of words. But she is nowhere to be seen, no doubt hiding in her hut, unwilling to be drawn into the firestorm she helped to create. It was just talk. You stammer, your voice barely a whisper. I meant no harm by it. It was just idle chatter at the well. Your defense sounds feeble, pathetic, even to your own ears. The baker's wife laughs, a short, harsh, humorless sound. Idle chatter? Your idle chatter has made me a laughingstock. It has questioned my husband's honor. That is not idle, woman. That is a crime. You look at the faces of your neighbors, desperately searching for a flicker of support, of understanding. But you see only a mixture of cautious neutrality and a kind of grim, fascinated enjoyment. They are siding with the baker and his wife. They are respected members of the village, proprietors of a trade everyone depends on. You are just another woman with a bucket and a sharp tongue. Legal historians who study community justice note that this moment, this public airing of a grievance, is a critical, informal trial. The reaction of the crowd, their murmurs of support for the accuser or the accused, can heavily influence the outcome of any formal judgment that is to follow. And in the silent, staring court of your neighbor's eyes, you feel you have already been found guilty. The baker, who has been silent until now, finally speaks. His voice is low and dangerous. This is not a matter that will be settled by shouting in the lane, he says, taking a protective step in front of his wife. This is a matter for the law. I will not have my household's good name dragged through the mud by the likes of you. We will bring this before the Lord's steward at the next sitting of the manor court away, their threat of legal action hanging in the air like a foul smoke. You are left standing in the middle of the lane, alone and exposed. Your neighbors, their curiosity satisfied, silently retreat back into their own homes, closing their doors, leaving you in a sudden, ringing silence. The warmth of community has been replaced by a chilling public shame. Your careless words, spoken in a moment of idle pleasure at the well, have now become a formal accusation, a matter for the Lord and his law. The days that follow the accusation are a quiet torment. You feel the eyes of your neighbors on you as you go about your chores. Conversations stop when you approach. You have been marked, set apart from the community by the public shame of the baker's wife's anger. You wait, your stomach in a constant knot of anxiety, for the baker to make good on his threat. A week later, the village reeve, the Lord's local official, knocks on your door. He informs you that you have been formally summoned. You are to present yourself at the next sitting of the manorial court. When the day arrives, you make your way to the designated place. You do not go to a grand courthouse with stone pillars and high ceilings. The manorial court, the lowest and most common form of justice in the land, is a much more humble affair. Today, it is being held in the village tithe barn, a vast, drafty building usually used for storing the 1/10 of the harvest that is owed to the church. The air inside smells of old hay, dust, and the faint, dry scent of mice. At the far end of the barn, the Lord's steward sits at a large, rough-hewn wooden table. Before him are a few rolls of parchment, an ink pot, and a quill. He is the judge, a man whose authority comes directly from the Lord of the manor. He is less a master of legal theory and more the Lord's business manager, responsible for ensuring the smooth and profitable running of the estate. To one side sit a dozen men from the village. They are the jury, composed of your fellow tenants. You see the faces of men you have known your entire life. You see the baker, his arms crossed, his face a grim mask. And you see your neighbor from the well, Agnes, who stares intently at the floor, refusing to meet your gaze. They are not here out of a sense of civic duty. Their attendance is mandatory. Their role is to bear witness and to advise the steward on local custom. But you know, their minds have long been made up. You stand before the steward's table, your hands trembling slightly, and you look at this rustic assembly of justice. Legal historians debate the primary purpose of these local courts, which were held in thousands of manors across the kingdom. Were they a genuine system of justice, a way for common folk like you to have their disputes heard fairly and resolved according to the custom of the manor? Or were they in reality primarily an instrument of economic and social control, a sophisticated mechanism for the lord to collect fines, enforce labor duties, settle land disputes in his favor, and constantly remind his tenants of his absolute authority over their lives? Looking at the stern, impatient face of the steward, you suspect it is mostly the latter. Your case is called. The steward reads the complaint in a flat, bored monotone. The baker and his wife step forward. The baker's wife repeats her accusation, this time with a more rehearsed, formal anger. She speaks of the damage to her good name, of the snickering she now hears at the market, of the potential damage to her husband's trade. She speaks of the importance of an honorable household and how your malicious, slanderous tongue has threatened it. Then it is your turn to speak. You stand alone. You have no one to speak for you, no advocate to argue your case. The steward looks down at you, his expression impatient. You try to explain. You say that it was just a moment of idle chatter, that you meant no real harm, that your words were twisted and exaggerated as they were retold. Your voice sounds small and weak in the vast, quiet space of the barn. It is your single, frightened voice against the righteous anger of a respected village family. You look to the jury of your neighbors, but you find no comfort there. They have all heard the story. They were all witness to your public shaming. To side with you now would be to risk the anger of the baker, a man they all need for their daily bread. Their faces are blank, impassive, their verdict already decided by the simple, powerful arithmetic of social politics. The steward does not take long to consider. He does not ask for witnesses or proof. The truth of your words is irrelevant to him. The only fact that matters is that a public disturbance occurred. Your gossip, whether true or false, has disrupted the peace of the manor, and the steward's primary job is to maintain that peace and order. He confers for a moment in a low whisper with a few of the senior men on the jury. They nod in agreement. He turns back to you, his face unreadable. This court, he announces, his voice booming in the quiet barn, finds you guilty. Guilty of the sin of slander, and of being a common scold and a disturber of the peace. The words hang in the dusty air. It is done. You are no longer just the accused. You are the condemned. A heavy silence falls over the barn. Your neighbors shuffle their feet, still refusing to look at you. The baker's wife allows herself a small, triumphant smile. All that remains now is for the steward to pronounce your sentence, the public punishment you must endure for the crime of a few careless, whispered words at the village well. The steward clears his throat, a sound unnaturally loud in the silent, dusty barn. You brace yourself for the pronouncement of your punishment, but it does not come immediately. First, he leans forward, his eyes fixing on you, and he begins to deliver a lecture. His audience is not just you, but every tenant gathered here today. You are about to be made into a lesson. You believe, he begins, his voice slow and deliberate, that you have committed a small crime, the crime of a few careless words, of idle chatter between women at the well. You are wrong. There are no small crimes when it comes to the peace and good order of this manor. He gestures vaguely towards the baker and his wife. You think you have only harmed the reputation of this one household, but the harm is far greater. A village is not a collection of individuals. It is a single body, and you are but one small part of it. The baker needs the farmer for his grain. The farmer needs the blacksmith for his plowshare. I need you all for your labor to serve our Lord. We are bound together, one to the other, by trust and by necessity. Your words are a poison that you have introduced into this body. His voice gains strength, taking on the tone of a sermon. Your slander creates suspicion. Suspicion creates resentment. Resentment creates quarrels. And quarrels between neighbors can lead to brawls, to feuds, and to a breakdown of the very peace that the King and our Lord have charged me to protect. You have not just hurt a woman's feelings. You have attacked the foundations of our community. This, you begin to understand, is the true nature of your crime. It is not libel or defamation in a modern sense. It is the medieval crime of disturbing the peace, of sowing discord where there should be harmony. He might even reference the manor's own records, kept on the scrolls before him. He could speak of past transgressions, reminding the jury of the social cost of such behavior. 2 years ago, he might say, this court fined Will Fletcher a whole groat for calling his neighbor a cheat over a game of dice. The slighting words led to a fight that left one man with a broken head. Last autumn, 2 women were put in the stocks for a brawl that began over an accusation of a stolen chicken. Words are the seeds from which violence grows. Your tongue has planted a dangerous seed in this village. He then turns his attention to your specific failing as a woman. He speaks of the virtues of a quiet and gentle spirit in a wife and a neighbor. He speaks of the sin of idle chatter, of the way a woman's tongue, if left ungoverned, can be a tool for the devil, breeding jealousy and discontent. His words are directed at you, but they are a stern warning to every woman present. Legal anthropologists who study early legal codes argue that these laws against scolding and slander were not always applied equally. They were often a powerful tool used by a patriarchal society to control and police female speech, which was frequently characterized by male authorities as being inherently more prone to gossip, irrationality, and disruption than the serious, important discourse of men. The crime was not just speaking ill. It was speaking out of turn, speaking too loudly, speaking in a way that challenged the established order. It was the crime of being an unruly woman. As he speaks, you feel yourself shrinking under the weight of his judgment in the collective gaze of your neighbors. You see the men on the jury nodding in solemn agreement. You see the women looking at you with a mixture of pity and fear, perhaps recognizing in your humiliation a warning meant for them as well. You understand now that you are not just being punished for a single foolish comment. You are being used as an example, a public sacrifice to reinforce the rules of social harmony. Your punishment is intended to be a lesson for all. Therefore, the steward continues, his lecture drawing to a close, the punishment must fit the crime. A crime of words cannot be paid for with a simple fine. A crime of public shame cannot be cured by private penance. The damage was done with your tongue, in public, and so the remedy must also be public, and it must be aimed at the very instrument of the offense. He pauses, letting the full weight of his meaning settle over the silent barn. He looks directly at you, his face devoid of any emotion save a grim sense of official duty. Because you have used your tongue as a weapon to disrupt the peace, he says, his voice now like the fall of a heavy stone, your tongue shall be silenced. And because you have sought to make a public spectacle of your neighbor's good name, you shall be made into a public spectacle yourself. He has explained the philosophy. He has laid out the justification. A heavy, dreadful silence fills the room. You have been judged. You have been lectured. And now you will be sentenced. The steward looks at you, his cold, impartial gaze holding no hint of pity. The long, heavy silence in the tithe barn stretches on, a form of torture in itself. He has judged you. He has lectured you. And now he will sentence you. For the crime of slander against your neighbors, he declares his voice flat and final. And for the greater crime of being a common scold and a disturber of the Lord, peace this court sentences you to 1 full day of public penance. From sunrise tomorrow until sunset, you will be silenced. You will wear the Brank's bridle, so that all may see the just and fitting reward for a malicious and ungoverned tongue. The words seem to hang in the dusty air, alien and unreal. The Brank's bridle. A wave of ice-cold terror washes over you, so powerful it makes your knees weak. You have heard of this punishment, of course. It is a thing whispered about, a cruel and unusual shame instrument used in the larger towns to punish unruly women. You have never seen one, nor did you ever imagine that such a thing existed here, in your own small village. The stocks, yes. The public whipping post, of course. Those are familiar tools of justice. But the bridle? The bridle is a more intimate and more terrifying form of humiliation. It is not just a punishment. It is a cage for your very identity. You know it by a few names. The priest, in his sermons against gossips, calls it the scold's bridle. You have heard travelers from the north refer to it simply as the Branks. The stories they tell are of an iron cage that fits over the head, with a metal plate or bit that is inserted into the mouth to hold the tongue down, making speech impossible. You have even heard tales that in some great cities the masks are forged by cruel and imaginative blacksmiths into grotesque parodies of a human face with a long pointed nose to signify a nosy gossip, or the long, foolish ears of a donkey to amplify the wearer's shame. The sentence feels both shockingly severe and terrifyingly arbitrary. You wonder if the steward even has the legal right to impose such a punishment. Historians and legal scholars still debate the exact legal status and prevalence of the scold's bridle. It was not a punishment written down in the great books of common law that governed the king's courts. Its use was, for the most part, a matter of local custom, an informal but powerful tool of justice applied at the discretion of a town council, a magistrate, or, in your case, the lord of a manor. Its legality was questionable, but its power to utterly humiliate and silence was absolute. In this barn, the steward's word is the only law that matters. You look at the faces of the jury, your neighbors. The smug satisfaction has vanished from the face of the baker's wife, replaced by a flicker of what looks like genuine shock. The other jurors, who had been looking at you with a kind of grim satisfaction, now avert their gaze, refusing to meet your eye. Perhaps they had expected a fine, a day in the stocks, a public apology. But this feels different. This is a punishment designed not just to shame, but to dehumanize. It has made everyone in the room deeply uncomfortable. The steward bangs his hand on the table. This court is concluded, he announces, already gathering his parchment scrolls. The jury members rise and file out of the barn quickly, almost gratefully, their silence a verdict all its own. You are left standing alone before the table, your legs trembling. The village reeve approaches you. He informs you that you are to return to your hut immediately, and are not to leave it. He will come for you at sunrise to begin your penance. He will bring the bridle with him. Your walk home is the first stage of your punishment. It is a walk of pure shame. The news of your sentence, passed moments ago in the barn, has already spread through the village with the supernatural speed of all bad news. As you walk down the lane, you see the doors of your neighbors' huts quietly closing. You see faces disappearing from windows. You are being shunned. You can feel 100 unseen eyes watching you, the silent, judging gaze of the community you have offended. You have been officially cast out. You reach your own hut and duck inside, barring the door behind you. But the flimsy wooden bar offers no comfort, no sense of protection. You are a condemned woman, a prisoner in your own home, waiting for the morning and the arrival of the iron mask. You spend the rest of the day and the long, sleepless night in a state of cold, quiet terror, your mind conjuring 1,000 different horrifying images of the device that awaits you. The sun has barely risen. Its first week, gray light filtering through the cracks in your hut's walls, but you have been awake all night. a prisoner of your own dread. Every creak of the hut, every rustle of the wind has sounded like the footsteps of your approaching punishment. Then you hear it, a sharp, authoritative knock on your door. It is the reeve. It is time. Your hands tremble as you lift the heavy wooden bar. You pull the door open, and he is standing there, a grim, impassive figure against the pale morning sky. In his hands, he holds the object of your sleepless terror. He is holding the Brank's bridle. It is both smaller and heavier than you had imagined. It is a dark, brutal thing of forged iron, black and cold and utterly without pity. He holds it up for you to see, and you take in the full, terrifying ingenuity of its design. It is a cage, a sort of open-faced helmet made of flat iron bars, curved and riveted together to form a framework that will perfectly encase your head. A hinge on one side allows it to open and close, and on the other side is a sturdy hasp, waiting for the sheriff's padlock. But your eyes are drawn to the most terrible feature of all. Projecting inwards from the front of the mask, from the part that will cover your mouth, is a flat, rectangular plate of iron. It is about the width of your thumb, and perhaps 2 inches long. It is the gag, the bit. You understand its function instantly, and with a wave of nauseating clarity. This piece is meant to go inside your mouth. It is designed to be pressed down firmly upon your tongue, pinning it to the floor of your mouth, rendering speech not just difficult, but physically impossible. To speak would be to gag and choke on the cold, hard iron. You look at the craftsmanship of the thing. It was not made hastily. The ironwork is skilled, the curves of the cage deliberate and well-formed. The rivets are solid. A village blacksmith, the same man whose name you so carelessly uttered just a few days ago, must have forged this. Perhaps he even added a small, gratuitously cruel, decorative curl to the nosepiece, a little flourish of his craft, a touch of artistry in an instrument of pure humiliation. The bridle was not made with passionate hatred, you realize, but with a cold, professional indifference that is somehow even more chilling. Staring at this strange cage-like object, you see that it is a machine with 2 distinct and terrible purposes. Museum curators and historians who have examined surviving examples of these bridles debate which function was considered more important by the authorities who used them. Was the primary goal the gag itself, the physical silencing of a troublesome tongue to prevent any further disruption? Or was it the cage, the public identification and display of the offender, turning her head into a walking, mobile pillory for all to see and scorn? You realize with a sickening certainty that the 2 purposes are inseparable. The device is designed to make your humiliation both perfectly silent and intensely visible. The reeve says nothing. He simply holds the bridle out, his expression impassive. This is a routine part of his job, no different from collecting taxes or overseeing the Lord's harvest. He is not your friend or your enemy. He is merely the instrument of the manor's justice. A wave of pure animal panic washes over you. Your first instinct is to slam the door, to barricade yourself inside, to refuse. But you know how useless that would be. He would simply return with 2 other men, and they would drag you out. There is no escape. To resist would only add the crime of defying an officer of the manor to the crime of being a scold. It would make your punishment worse. Your body trembles, and the metallic taste of fear is in your mouth, a bitter preview of the iron to come. You have been tried and sentenced. The time for words is over. Now is the time for silence. The reeve, seeing your silent, terrified submission, unhooks the clasp on the side of the bridle. He pulls the 2 halves of the iron cage apart. It opens like a hungry metal jaw. He steps forward, holding the instrument before him, ready to place it over your head and enclose you in its cold, hard grip. You close your eyes, take one last, deep breath of free air, and bow your head, bracing for the brutal, final, and absolute silencing of your voice. You feel the cold, hard weight of the iron as the reeve settles the bridle over your head. The metal bars press against your cheeks and forehead, cold and unyielding. The world is suddenly framed by a black iron grid. He brings the two halves of the cage together around your face, the rusty hinge creaking softly by your ear. But before he closes it, he performs the final, most violating act. He puts his thumb into your mouth, forcing your jaw open, and with his other hand, he guides the flat iron gag inside. The shock of the cold foreign metal against your tongue is breathtaking. It is a hard alien presence, and your first instinct is to gag, to retch, to spit it out. But you cannot. He pushes it down firmly, pinning your tongue flat against the floor of your mouth, rendering it a useless, captive muscle. The taste of old, rusty iron fills your senses, a bitter, metallic foulness that you can already feel coating your teeth. With the gag in place, he swings the other side of the cage shut. You hear the heavy click as the hasp meets the lock, and then the final, definitive, metallic snap of a padlock being locked just behind your ear. The sound echoes in your head. It is the sound of a cage door closing. You are now locked inside this iron prison. The immediate sensations are overwhelming. The first is the sheer weight of it. The iron framework is heavy, a constant, wearying pressure on your head and neck that you can already feel straining your muscles. The second is the taste, that bitter, rusty flavor that you cannot spit out, a permanent tainting of your own mouth. The third is the saliva. With the gag pinning your tongue and preventing you from swallowing normally, you can feel your own saliva beginning to pool, a warm, thick liquid that will soon have no place to go, but to dribble uncontrollably from the corners of your imprisoned lips, adding drool to your list of public humiliations. But the most profound shock, the most terrifying sensation of all, is the silence. You try to protest, to make a sound, to form a word, but you can't. The iron bit holds your tongue fast. All you can produce is a low, guttural, animalistic moan from the back of your throat. Your voice, the tool you have used your entire life to express joy, anger, fear, and love, has been stolen from you. The part of you that gossiped, that sang lullabies to your children, that argued and laughed, has been surgically removed from your identity. You have been muzzled like a dangerous dog, reduced to a beast that is deemed too unruly to be allowed its natural sound. You stand there, your head heavy, your mouth full of rust and drool, wrapped in a new and terrible silence. You feel no sharp, acute pain, just a deep, crushing discomfort, and a humiliation so profound it feels like a physical blow. Historians of punishment argue that the unique cruelty of the scold bridle lay not in its ability to inflict intense physical pain, like the thumbscrew or the rack of the Inquisitor. Its true genius was in its masterful combination of public shaming and sensory torment. It was a tool designed not to break the body, but to attack a person's dignity, their social standing, and their very identity as a communicating human being. It was a sophisticated instrument of psychological, not just physical, torture. The reeve, his face still a mask of bored indifference, takes a short length of coarse rope and ties it to an iron ring on the front of the bridle, just below your nose. The rope is a leash. He will not just force you to wear the mask. He will lead you through the village like a tamed bear or a misbehaving ox. He gives a sharp tug on the rope. It is time. He pulls you forward, out of the smoky darkness of your own hut and into the bright morning sunlight. The door to your private world, your sanctuary, is closed behind you. You are now a public spectacle. Your punishment, in all its silent, ironclad horror, is about to begin. You are about to face the stares and the scorn of your neighbors. The reeve gives a sharp, impatient tug on the rope leash, and you stumble forward out of the relative privacy of your doorway and into the full, unforgiving light of the morning. Your public ordeal has begun. The sun feels harsh and accusatory on your face, and the familiar sights of your own village have become a terrifying stage for your disgrace. He does not lead you directly to the stocks or the village green. The sentence was for a full day of public penance, and the reeve intends to make sure that public is as large as possible. He begins to lead you on a slow, deliberate, and meandering circuit of the entire village. He walks you down the main lane, past the cluster of huts, past the blacksmith's forge, past the well where your crime began. He is ensuring that no one, from the oldest grandparent to the youngest child, will miss the spectacle of your humiliation. The first to react are the children. Seeing this strange, monstrous figure, a woman with an iron cage where her head should be, they stop their games and stare, their mouths agape. Their initial shock quickly turns to a kind of cruel, childish excitement. They begin to run alongside you, pointing and laughing. Look, it's Goody Miller in the branks. The scold has a muzzle. A few of the bolder ones scoop up handfuls of mud and dung from the street and fling it at you. You feel a wet clod of dirt strike your shoulder, but you cannot cry out. You can only flinch and continue your slow, silent walk. You pass the blacksmith's forge. The smith and his apprentice stop their hammering to watch you go by, their muscular arms leaning on their hammers. Their faces hold a look of grim, masculine satisfaction. They are not jeering, but they are silently nodding their approval. They see not a shamed neighbor, but the abstract concept of public order being rightly and sternly enforced. They see a disruptive element being put back in its place. The reactions of the women are different. They stand in the doorways of their huts, their faces a complex mixture of pity, fascination, and a palpable fear. They do not mock you. They watch you with a wide-eyed, silent intensity. In your caged head and your public shame, they see a reflection of their own vulnerability. They see a warning meant for them, a stark reminder of the potential consequences of a careless word, a sharp retort, or a shared secret. You have become a walking sermon for the virtues of a quiet and submissive tongue. You notice that the men look at you with stern judgment, while the women look at you with fear. Historians who examine the court records and surviving bridals from this period note that the victims of this specific punishment were overwhelmingly, almost exclusively women. This has led to a long debate about the bridle as a tool of misogyny, an instrument designed not just to punish any disruptive speech, but specifically to control, suppress, and terrorize the voices of women within the family and the community. The reeve, enjoying his power, leads you deliberately past the baker's cottage. The baker's wife is waiting for you. She stands in her doorway with her arms crossed, a look of cold, righteous, and complete triumph on her face. She does not say a word, but her smile is more wounding than any insult. This is her victory. Her honor has been satisfied, her reputation restored, paid for by your utter degradation. You scan the faces of the women in the doorways, looking for your friend from the well, Agnes. You finally spot her, peeking out from behind the door of her hut. Your eyes meet for a fraction of a second, and in hers you see not sympathy, but pure animal fear. She quickly pulls her head back inside and closes the door. She has abandoned you. In this moment, you are utterly and completely alone. The physical misery of the parade is immense. The heavy iron cage pulls and strains the muscles in your neck. The iron gag has made your mouth fill with a thick saliva that you cannot swallow, and a thin, shameful trickle of drool escapes your lips and runs down your chin. The sun begins to heat the black iron, making it warm and tight against your skin. But all of this is nothing compared to the crushing, soul-destroying weight of 100 pairs of eyes staring at your silent, caged face. Finally, the circuit of the village is complete. Every soul has seen you, but your punishment is not over. The reeve leads you into the center of the village green and brings you to a stop next to the whipping post and the empty stocks. He unties the rope from his own hand and tethers you, like a farm animal, to the post. He turns and walks away without a backward glance. You are left there, a stationary exhibit in the Museum of Village Justice. You are a living scarecrow, put on display to frighten away the sin of a woman's unruly speech. The long, slow, silent hours of public scorn stretch before you. You stand tethered to the post in the center of the village green, a silent, iron-headed statue of shame. The initial, sharp horror of the parade has subsided, replaced by a long, slow, and profoundly tedious humiliation. The sun begins its slow crawl across the sky, and your entire world is now contained within the cramped, uncomfortable confines of your iron prison. Your senses are all distorted, muted, and turned inward. Your vision of the world, once wide and open, is now a frustrating, gridded picture. You see your familiar village, but it is framed by the black iron bars of the cage. Your peripheral vision is gone, and to see anything, you must turn your entire, heavy head. You watch your neighbors go about their daily lives as if you are an animal in a cage at a fair. You see them talking, laughing, working, all through the dark, dehumanizing filter of your punishment. As the hours pass, your mind, starved of normal stimulation, begins to play tricks on you. You stare at the unchanging pattern of the wattle on the side of the nearest hut for so long that the lines begin to waver and swim. When you close your eyes to escape the gawks and stares of the passers-by, there is no darkness, only what your descendants might call a prisoner's cinema. You see strange, pulsing blobs of purple and green light behind your eyelids, phantom shapes and shifting patterns created by a mind that is bored, stressed, and deprived of its usual visual input. Your hearing is muffled, too. The iron cage around your ears seems to dampen the sounds of the world, making everything feel distant and unreal. A dog barks, a child laughs, a cart rumbles by, but the sounds are dull, as if you are hearing them from the bottom of a well. The loudest and most intimate sound in your world is the sound of your own breathing, a rough, wet, echoing noise trapped inside the mask with you. It is a constant, claustrophobic reminder of your own caged existence. But the worst sensory deprivation is the silence. Your silence. It is a profound and maddening powerlessness. You see two of your friends walk by, and your every instinct is to call out to them, to explain, to apologize, to plead for a sip of water. But you cannot. The iron bit is a cold, hard tyrant in your mouth. You can make no words, only a low, desperate, humming moan that no one can understand. A stray dog wanders near your chickens, and you want to shout, to shoo it away, but you can only watch in silent frustration. The loss of your voice is the loss of your agency, the loss of your ability to act upon the world. The long, slow hours of the day crawl by at a snail's pace. You now understand the true purpose of this punishment. It is not designed to cause sharp, physical pain, but a slow, grinding psychological torment. Psychologists and historians who study the effects of public shaming argue that the goal of a device like the scold's bridle is to force an internal transformation. The public degradation, the sensory distortion, and the enforced silence are all designed to shatter your sense of self-worth, to break your spirit, and to compel you to realign your own behavior with the norms of the community. It is a way of forcing you to police your own tongue in the future, with the memory of this iron cage as your permanent, invisible warden. The physical misery mounts with each passing hour. The sheer, dead weight of the iron has created a deep, burning ache in the muscles of your neck and shoulders. The iron gag has rubbed your tongue raw, and it feels swollen and foreign in your mouth. You are desperately thirsty, but you cannot drink. You can feel the constant, shameful trickle of drool from the corners of your imprisoned lips as it runs down your chin and onto the front of your tunic. The sun beats down on the black iron, and you can feel the metal growing warm against your skin. You stand and wait, enduring the stares, the whispers, and the occasional thrown piece of refuse. You are no longer a person. You are a lesson. You are a public monument to the dangers of an unruly tongue. Finally, you see the sun begin to dip low in the sky, its light turning golden and soft. The long shadows of the village huts stretch across the green. The day is almost over. Your punishment is almost complete. You are drained, exhausted, and hollowed out by the ordeal. You see the village reeve walking towards you from across the square, a large, heavy iron key in his hand. The moment of your release is at hand, but you know that even when the iron cage is removed, the memory of it and the shame it represents will remain with you forever. The reeve approaches you as the last rays of sunlight fade from the sky. He carries the heavy iron key to your prison. He does not speak to you. He walks behind you, inserts the key into the padlock, and with a grating metallic click, the lock springs open. He pulls the two halves of the iron cage apart and lifts the bridle from your head. The sudden release is a dizzying, painful, and glorious sensation. A rush of cool, fresh air fills your lungs. The immense weight is lifted from your neck and shoulders. You can move your head freely, see the world without the black grid of the iron bars, and most wonderfully, you can feel your own tongue again. It is swollen, raw, and tastes of rust, but it is yours. You work your jaw, swallow the saliva that has pooled in your mouth, and take a deep, shuddering breath. You are free. The reeve gives you a stern, final look, a silent warning, before turning and walking away, the bridle clanking at his side. The day of your penance is over, but you do not hurry home. You stand there for a moment on the village green, your body trembling with a mixture of relief and exhaustion, and you look at the instrument of justice that stands beside the whipping post where you were tethered. You look at the stocks. The stocks are a familiar sight, a permanent piece of village furniture. They are a crude but effective device. Two long, heavy wooden planks hinged together, with carved semicircles that form holes for a person's ankles, and sometimes their wrists when locked together. It is a punishment you have seen dozens of times. You saw a man locked in them just a few days ago in town. And as you look at them now, you find yourself contemplating the different flavors of public humiliation. You think of the crimes that lead a person here. The stocks are for petty thieves, for habitual drunkards, for bakers who sell underweight loaves of bread. The punishment is one of physical helplessness and public scorn. The man locked in the stocks is a stationary target, unable to move, unable to defend himself from the taunts and the filth thrown by the crowd. His crime was an act, so his punishment is the prevention of action. Sometimes, you know, the punishment is tailored to the crime with a kind of grim theatrical flair. You remember a story from a neighboring village of an alewife who was caught selling weak, watery ale. She was sentenced to a day in the stocks and forced to wear a garland of the wet, smelly hops from her own failed brew, while the town crier poured the bad ale into the gutter at her feet. You've heard of butchers who sold bad meat being forced to sit in the stocks while the stinking. Rotten meat was burned in a fire directly under their noses, forcing them to choke on the fumes of their own dishonesty. The goal is always the same, public shaming. But you realize now that your punishment, the bridle, was something different, something more insidious. The man in the stocks can still speak. He can protest his innocence. He can curse his accusers. He can plead with his friends for a drink of water. He retains his voice, but the bridle was designed to take that away. It was a punishment specifically for a crime of the tongue, and its remedy was to remove the tongue from the world entirely. It was a punishment of enforced, absolute silence. You stand there on the empty green, rubbing your sore neck, and you ponder the purpose of it all. Historians of crime and punishment debate the primary function of these shame-based penalties. Were they truly about correcting the offender's behavior through the powerful force of public humiliation, a way to make a person so ashamed of their actions that they would never repeat them? Or were they more a form of social theater, a kind of grim public entertainment that acted as a pressure valve for the community? so frustrations and anxieties allowing them to safely vent their anger on a designated scapegoat? Looking back on your day of silent torment, you feel it was both. You were a lesson, a warning to others. But you were also an entertainment, a strange and cruel diversion in the monotony of village life. You compare the two punishments in your mind. The stocks imprison the body, leaving the voice free. The bridle imprisons the voice, leaving the body free to walk through its shame. Which is worse? You don't know. Both seem like a unique kind of hell. Both leave a mark on a person that is not a physical scar, but a social one, a stain on one's reputation that can take years to fade. The last of the light is gone now. The village is settling down for the night. The thought of your own hearth, your own family, is a powerful pull. Your day of public punishment is over. But as you turn to leave the village green, you know that the ordeal is not truly finished. You must now face the long, quiet, and perhaps even more difficult task of re-entering the community that has just spent an entire day shaming you. The silence of the bridle has been lifted, but the silence of your neighbors may just be beginning. You walk home through the gathering twilight, your head feeling unnaturally light and exposed without the heavy weight of the iron cage. The physical punishment is over, but as you approach your own hut, you realize the true ordeal is just beginning. You now have to face the aftermath. You have to live with the ghost of the bridle, a phantom of shame that will follow you for a long, long time. When you enter your home, your family rushes to you. Your children stare at your face, at the red, chafed marks on your chin and cheeks where the iron has rubbed you raw. Your husband offers you a cup of water, and the simple act of drinking without the iron gag in your mouth feels like a miracle. But there is a new quietness in your own home, a new caution in their eyes. The punishment was not just for you. It was a shame brought upon your entire household. In the days that follow, you learn the true nature of your social scar. Your reputation, you understand, is not some abstract idea. It is a vital form of currency in your village, a kind of social capital as real as the coins you earned at the market. A good name ensures that your neighbors will help you during a difficult harvest, that the miller will give you fair measure, that your children will be able to make good marriages. A damaged reputation, however, can bring with it a host of quiet, everyday punishments that are, in their own way, as confining as the bridle itself. When you go to the well now, the conversations do not stop, but they change. The easy, comfortable chatter is replaced by a polite, strained formality. The women are no longer your peers. They are your keepers, watching your words, waiting for you to make another slip. You see them glancing at each other when you speak. You have become a story, a cautionary tale, and your presence makes everyone guarded. Your friend Agnes still avoids you, her own guilt and fear a palpable wall between you. The economic consequences are subtle but real. When you try to sell your husband's woodwork to a neighbor, he haggles more aggressively than usual, a silent acknowledgement of your family's weakened social standing. The baker's wife, your accuser, now treats you with a kind of cold, dismissive pity when you must buy a loaf of bread, her victory complete every time you are forced to interact with her. You have been put back in your place, and that place is a little lower than it was before. Social historians who analyze court rolls and parish records from this period debate the long-term effectiveness of these shaming punishments. Did they successfully reintegrate offenders back into the community after a suitable period of penance, thereby reinforcing social cohesion? Or did they, more often than not, create permanent outcasts, fueling long-simmering family feuds and resentments that could destabilize a village for generations? Looking at the cautious, mistrustful faces of your neighbors, you suspect it is more often the latter. To begin the process of healing this social wound, you know there is one more public act of humility you must perform. The following Sunday, you go to church. You sit at the back, your head bowed. After the Mass, as the priest has instructed you, you must perform a public penance. You walk to the front of the church, and in front of the entire village, you must make a formal public apology to the baker, his wife, and to the community as a whole for your slanderous words and for disturbing the peace. You speak the words, your voice still hoarse, your tongue still slightly swollen and tender. I confess my sin of slander, you say, looking at the stone floor. I ask forgiveness from God and from my good neighbors for the discord I have caused. It is the final, ritualized act of your degradation, the official acceptance of your guilt and your shame. Only after this public act of submission can your reintegration into the community truly begin. Some of your neighbors nod, accepting your apology. The priest gives you a stern but forgiving look. But you know that the memory of the iron bridle will not be so easily erased. You will forever be the woman who wore the branks. It has become a part of your story, a part of your identity. In the weeks and months that follow, life slowly begins to return to a semblance of normality. The conversations at the well become a little less strained. A neighbor smiles at you. But something has fundamentally changed within you. The ordeal has left you with a deep, abiding, and fearful understanding of the power of your own words. You have been taught a brutal lesson in the art of silence. The seasons change. The green barley of summer becomes the golden harvest of autumn, which in turn gives way to the gray, frozen silence of winter. Your life resumes its familiar, laborious rhythm, but a fundamental part of you has been altered forever. The iron bridle has been removed from your head, but its shadow remains, a permanent and heavy weight on your tongue. You have learned the power of a held tongue. You find yourself moving through your own life as a quieter, more cautious creature. At the village well, that great social stage where your troubles began, you are no longer an active participant in the flow of news and rumor. You have become a silent observer. You draw your water, offer a polite, brief greeting to the other women, and you leave. You keep your eyes downcast. You do not linger. The easy, thoughtless pleasure you once took in sharing a juicy story has been replaced by a cold, abiding fear. You listen to the chatter around you, but you do not contribute. When your neighbor Agnes, who has slowly started speaking to you again, leans in to whisper a scandalous tale about the miller's son, you do not lean in with her. You take a half step back. You give a non-committal nod and make an excuse to leave. You have learned that a shared secret is a shared crime, and you will no longer be an accomplice. The other women notice your new reticence. They might see it as piety, or perhaps as a lingering shame. They do not understand that it is a form of post-traumatic vigilance. The punishment was designed not just to correct a single transgression, but to reshape your very nature. It was meant to instill a permanent sense of caution, to make you censor your own thoughts before they can become dangerous words. Historians of emotion and social psychology study how these public shaming rituals were designed to instill a powerful, internalized sense of surveillance. The goal was for you to carry the memory of the crowd's judgmental gaze with you for the rest of your life to become your own. Jailer your own reeve, constantly policing the words that rise to your lips. In this, the punishment has been a complete and terrifying success. You think before you speak now, a habit you never had before. You weigh every word. Is it true? Is it necessary? And most importantly, could it possibly be used as a weapon against you or your family? More often than not, you decide that silence is the safest, wisest course of action. You live in a world that values social harmony above all else. A world where conformity is not just a virtue, but a survival strategy. Your punishment has brutally reminded you that any deviation from the norm, any act that disrupts the quiet, established order, will be corrected without mercy. You even find yourself wary of being the victim of gossip. You are careful about who sees you, where you go. The act of eavesdropping was a specific and recognized offense in some local courts, a testament to the community's deep anxiety about the power of secrets. You now understand this from the other side. You feel as though your neighbors are constantly listening, their ears pressed to the thin wattle and daub walls of your life, waiting to find a new story to tell. Your relationship with your own voice has changed. You used to sing as you worked in the fields. You used to haggle loudly and cheerfully at the market. You used to offer your opinion freely in conversations. Now, a quiet hesitancy governs your speech. The memory of the iron gag, the feeling of your tongue pinned and useless, the bitter taste of rust, it is a physical memory that lives in your mouth. Sometimes, when you are about to speak up in a conversation, you can almost feel the phantom pressure of the iron bit, a ghostly reminder of the consequence of an ungoverned word. Your family notices the change. Your children miss the stories you used to tell them before sleep. Your husband misses the easy back and forth of your evening conversations. You have become more watchful, more serious, more silent. The bridle has, in a way, done its work permanently. It may be unlocked and hanging in the Reeves storeroom, but a part of it will be with you forever. You have learned the great, hard lesson that in a small, close-knit world, every word has weight. Every story has a price. And the most powerful thing a person can possess is not a sharp wit or a quick tongue, but the simple, silent wisdom of knowing when to say nothing at all. This new silence is your shield, your armor, your guarantee of a peaceful life. It is also your prison. The seasons turn again, and your new, quiet nature becomes a fixed part of your identity. Your life is outwardly the same, a repeating cycle of labor and rest. But your inner world and your perception of the village around you has been fundamentally and permanently altered. You were once an active participant in the village's great, endless conversation. Now, you are its unwilling audience, and your punishment has given you the curse of understanding what you are truly hearing. You see the world not as a community, but as a web of whispers. Every conversation you overhear is now tinged with a potential danger you were oblivious to before. When you see two farmers leaning on a fence post, their heads close together, you no longer see a simple chat about the weather. You see a potential conspiracy, a quiet agreement to fix the price of their grain at the market, a verbal contract that could affect your own family's ability to buy flour. In your world, where most people cannot read or write, the spoken word holds the power that written contracts will one day have. A promise made before a witness, a bargain struck with a handshake, these are binding. You understand now that every conversation is a form of negotiation, a subtle jockeying for position and advantage. Language is a tool, and you now see it being used all around you with a new and alarming clarity. You are at the alehouse simply to fetch your husband who has stayed too long. You stand by the door, waiting, and you listen. The loud, cheerful noise you once found so comforting now sounds like a dangerous cacophony of potential accusations. You hear a man loudly proclaim that another man owes him a debt. He has no written proof, but by announcing it publicly, before the witnesses in the alehouse, he is creating a public record. He is using the power of the crowd to shame his debtor into paying. You realize that what you thought was a simple argument is, in fact, an informal legal proceeding. You see the strategic value of an overheard conversation. A person might complain loudly to a friend about a neighbor's wandering pig, knowing full well that the neighbor's cousin is sitting at the next table and will report the complaint back. It is a way of sending a warning, of lodging a formal grievance without the risk of a direct confrontation. The entire village is a network of these unofficial messengers and witnesses. You realize with a start that the eavesdropper is one of the most important roles in the community, a living conduit for the information that keeps the social machine running. Anthropologists studying social networks in small, pre-literate communities note that this constant stream of gossip and reported speech is not just for sharing news. It is a way for the community to constantly map and remap its own internal landscape. The whispers tell you who is currently in favor with the Lord's reeve, who is in debt to whom, which families are considering a marriage alliance, and which neighbors are nursing a silent, simmering grudge. It is a complex, living map of power, and you, since your punishment, have lost your place on it. You are no longer a node in the network. You are just a silent endpoint. Your experience with the bridal has made you hyper-aware of the fragility of reputation. When you hear a woman at the well laughingly call another woman a shrew, a word that was once a common joke, you feel a jolt of cold fear. You see the potential violence in that simple word. You know how easily a joke can become an accusation, and how quickly an accusation can lead to a formal complaint, a court hearing, and a public shaming. You see the precariousness of everyone's social standing, the tightrope everyone walks every day without even realizing it. The world now seems to you like a far more dangerous place, not because the physical threats have changed, but because you now understand the immense power and danger of the invisible world of words, reputations, and social maneuvering. You have been given a new, unwanted kind of sight, the ability to see the skeleton of power and potential conflict beneath the skin of everyday village life. This new perception is isolating. It makes the simple, cheerful gatherings you once enjoyed feel like minefields. You find yourself seeking solitude more often, preferring the quiet company of your own hearth to the complex, dangerous social web of the village. The silence that was once forced upon you by the iron mask has now become a habit, a refuge. It is the only place you feel truly safe. The years pass, turning the soil of the fields and the thatch of your roof, and they turn you as well. You are an old woman now. Your children have children of their own. Your face is a map of a long and difficult life, but your eyes hold a quiet, steady calm. The memory of the iron bridle, of the public shame, has not faded, but it has changed. It is no longer a source of sharp, daily terror, but a deep, foundational part of the person you have become. And a strange and unexpected thing has happened. The punishment that was designed to destroy your social standing has, in the long run, given you a new and powerful kind of respect. Your silence, which began as a fearful, self-imposed prison, has, over the decades, been reinterpreted by the village. You are no longer seen as the shamed scold. You are now seen as the wise woman, not a healer of the body like the woman you once visited, but a healer of a different sort. Your reticence is no longer viewed as fear or shame, but as a sign of profound thoughtfulness. In a world of loud opinions and constant chatter, your deliberate, measured silence carries an immense weight. You have become a respected elder, a figure of quiet authority in the village. This is the final, strange irony of your ordeal. The medieval world is full of contradictions, but none is more potent than the association of silence with wisdom, particularly in a woman. A chattering woman is a fool or a sinner. A silent woman is seen as pious, thoughtful, and intelligent. She is a woman who listens more than she speaks, and therefore, her words, when she finally chooses to offer them, have the weight of carefully considered truth. Younger women now come to you for advice. They come with their quarrels with their husbands, their disputes with their neighbors, their fears for their children. They speak to you because they know you will listen, truly listen, without immediately offering a torrent of your own opinions. You sit with them, your hands folded in your lap, and you hear their stories. And when they are finished, you might offer only a few simple, carefully chosen words. But those words, coming from a woman known for her profound silence, are treated as oracles, as nuggets of pure wisdom. The bridal taught you the terror of a careless word, and in doing so, it taught you the immense power of a careful one. Social historians often explore the paradoxical ways in which individuals in rigidly structured societies could subvert or transform their given social status. They examine how a mark of public shame could, over the course of a lifetime, be slowly and unintentionally reinterpreted by the community into a mark of distinction. Your journey is a perfect example. The punishment was meant to label you as a disruptive woman for the rest of your life. But by forcing you into a state of quiet observation, it allowed you to transcend that label and become a wise woman instead. You have, in a way, performed a slow, quiet, and unintentional act of social alchemy. You rarely think of the baker's wife anymore. She grew old and passed away years ago, her own reputation unblemished. Your friend Agnes, who abandoned you in your moment of need, became a grandmother and a friend to you once more. Your shared, unspoken secret, a strange and complicated bond between you. The story of your punishment has faded from active gossip into a piece of village folklore, a tale told to frighten naughty children, its original subject you almost forgotten. You are at peace now. You have lived a long life, and you have learned its hardest lessons. You learned that words have the power to build and to destroy, and that silence can be a shield, a refuge, and eventually a source of strength. You have seen how a community can turn on one of its own in an instant, and how, with the slow, grinding passage of time, it can also forget and forgive. You sit outside your hut in the cool of the evening, watching your grandchildren play on the village green, near the very spot where you once stood tethered in your iron mask. The memory is there, a thin, pale scar on your soul, but it no longer has the power to wound you. It is simply a part of the long, strange story of the person you have become. And now, the story of the woman who learned the power of silence comes to its own quiet end. Her long day of shame is over, her life has been lived, and the peace she found can now be yours. Let the memory of the iron bridle, of the shouting crowd, and the silent humiliation dissolve and fade away. Let it all recede into the gentle darkness, like a half-forgotten tale from a time long, long ago. That world of harsh judgments and public shame is not your world. You are here now, in a place of perfect privacy, safety, and comfort. Feel the gentle support of your own bed, the soft touch of your own pillow. Listen to the calm, quiet rhythm of your own easy breathing. There are no accusations here, no punishments to be endured. There is only the deep, profound, and welcoming silence of the night, a silence that is not a punishment, but a gift, a silence that invites you to let go of the day, to let go of all your thoughts, and to drift into a peaceful and restorative sleep. End of script. Sweet dreams.